Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Daily Football Roundup proudly brings to you the best damn podcast in the world, the 12-ounce Curl Route Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Current. You can find me on Twitter or X at Aaron Current. My co-host, Kyle, can be found on that app at DF Roundup, and my co-host, Corey, is Xless or Twitterless, I guess. What's going on, fellas? How's your week?
I'm glad to hear that you're Xless, Corey. That means you've had a successful relationship your whole life. So
yeah. Been with my wife for 10 years. So.
Oh, another week in the books, fellas. Corey, I see you rocking Kentucky. We now have the longest tenured SEC football coach.
It's wild.
In Coach Mark Stoops. That's never thought I'd be able to say that.
I did not expect Saban today at all.
Me either. We'll get into all that, but get this thing started and talk about last week. I am a freaking moron, and we'll get into it. The first game last week, the 12-ounce Curl Route Podcast. Big spread of the week, Dallas traveling to Washington. They beat the Commanders 38-10 to lock up the NFC East. I forgot what division they were in for a second. I had Washington plus 13. Our guest picker, Matt, also had Washington plus 13. You both correctly picked Dallas minus 13. I don't know. I guess I had this crazy idea that Washington may show a little bit of intestinal fortitude and maybe show up to the game, but that was crazy talk. Dallas shellacked them. I saw the post-game interview, CeeDee Lamb wearing his NFC East champions hat, and the interviewer asked Dak, "Hey, I noticed you're not wearing the hat." And Dak was like, "I've got another hat in mind." So his eyes are on the prize. Dallas takes care of business and now moves on to the playoffs. What'd you guys think of this one? I'll start with you, Corey.
I thought they were going to beat them by a lot. Dallas still had to technically play for the 2 seed, so they got it, and they rolled Washington like they did earlier this week or this year. So, yeah, this was Dallas all day.
Yeah, my buddy Jake's in the chat. Bearded Logic is in the chat. He's a Cowboys fan. So he's pretty happy that his team is representing the NFC East as champions. Kyle, what do you think about this game?
Are we charging him to be in the chat as a Cowboys fan, or is he already endured enough being a Cowboys fan his whole life? So I mean, as soon as I heard Sam Howell was starting this game, and I even said it last week on the podcast, Jacoby Brissett gives you the best chance to win. And he didn't start a game. He was due to start later in the last few weeks, and then came up with an injury, and they just rode with Sam Howell, which I don't know. I didn't really like that, this was Sam Howell looked good at the beginning of the season, and then it's just the wheels fell off. This was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and we'll get into Washington a little more with the Black Monday things that happened. I didn't expect, like I said, I just expect them to show up. I mean, the division's on the line. You have nothing to lose. I don't know, crazy. But the 12-ounce Curl Route Podcast nail biter of the week was Saturday at 8:15. The Houston Texans travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. They win this game 23-19. We all picked Houston minus 1.5. Really good game, fellas. I watched this one. The Colts were a dropped pass on 4th down, really away from winning this game, and little did they know it would have led them to winning the division. But Houston wins the division. You get a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, win the division, go to the playoffs, and hey, man, all you got to do is make it to the dance, and you never know what might happen. Corey, being a Stroud boy, how do you feel about your Texans winning the division?
The Stroud boys were flying the flags high this weekend. And I thought it was just the huge collapse of Jacksonville and the winner of this game. No, like you said, we didn't know it was going to actually win the division. And I, in my opinion, I think the Houston Texans have the O-Roy and the D-Roy this year. they had a hell of a draft, and D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. I think it's just all
Will Anderson or
yeah.
I'm biased. I like Tyreek Stevenson. Yeah, but he led all rookies with interceptions, had a bunch of tackles, but I don't know who D-Roy is. Usually they give it to a pass rusher. Yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean that was it. I mean they didn't play their best game, and we'll get to them playing the Browns next week. That's going to be they do at least get it at home. So, but
yeah,
I mean we'll see in the preview. I got a couple notes about that game myself. So I don't know.
Corey doing some homework this week, getting ready for he's got Kyle nipping at his heels. He better
no. I typed in a website and clicked 2 buttons, and I found what
it wasn't the website he was wanting to look for either. You know?
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, what did you think about this one?
So, just to kind of throw my hat in Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think Jalen Carter is currently the favorite to win that, from what I've seen, and I don't know. We've talked enough about Jalen Carter on this podcast at the beginning of the season. This one, talk about the fireworks to start this game. 75-yard bomb to Nico Collins. I mean, this was. I don't think that they knew that this game was for the AFC South title, because they didn't, obviously, because Jacksonville shouldn't have lost to Tennessee the next day. But yeah, I mean, Indianapolis played their. I mean, they lost Jonathan Taylor for 2 different parts of this season. Yep. They're playing with Gardner Minshew, who's not technically their starting quarterback because Anthony Richardson's obviously hurt. So for Indianapolis to still hold it all together and even have a shot at playing for the title, the AFC AFC South title, which Indianapolis should probably be the East, but I mean they held it together all the way till the end of the season. I feel like that's something that Indianapolis has been able to do. But overall, good game. Like Corey said, we'll see how Houston does this week against Cleveland. But yeah.
I think it was really a testament to their coaching in Indianapolis. It seems like they got the right hire in Shane Steichen, not only for what they've been showing, but also what's happening in Philadelphia. I mean, the Eagles, if you talk about a team that's backing into the playoffs and just barely making it, that was a team that was 10-1, 11-1 at one point this season, and then just fell bass backwards into the playoffs. I mean, we'll talk about them later, but shout out to Shane Steichen for the work he's done as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. When you see this roster at the start of the year, there's no way you would have thought, they're going to be competing for a divisional title, especially with their first-round quarterback injured. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll see that division has three heads really chomping at the bit for that spot, and who knows what the Titans might do. I mean, it's not like they have a terrible roster, I guess.
Real quick too, that division has 2 Coach of the Year candidates too, with D'Amico Ryans and Steichen. So
looking pretty bright. They have a rookie Coach of the Year, or no? They don't have that as an award.
I don't think so. No.
If they did, they would definitely be.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be one of them too, probably.
Right up at it. The next game we had Sunday at 1:00. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to New Orleans with the division on the line, or so they thought at the time. Atlanta loses this game 17-48. We all picked New Orleans -3 correctly. New Orleans wins the game, blows out Atlanta, but I mean, we'll talk about it in the next game. But ultimately, they fall short of winning their division. The big story out of this one was Jameis Winston gets told to go in victory formation and take a knee, and he goes, "Nah, we're going to hand it off to Jamal Williams, who hadn't scored a touchdown all year, and let him go ahead and walk into the end zone." Just Jameis being Jameis, man. That guy, he's been a character since college, man. Stealing crab legs, and he goes to the league and eating W's. It's just I don't know, man. Jameis is a weird dude, and his interaction with the reporter after the game was even weirder. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Jamal Williams finally got a touchdown, but I mean, how is he going to look at it? because it's not really like the defense was trying at that point. I don't know if Atlanta's defense was trying all game, but they definitely weren't when you're in victory formation. Corey, what'd you think about this one?
One of these teams that still had a chance to get into the playoffs. I'm glad neither one of them made it. That was absolutely ridiculous what Jameis Winston did. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I agree with Shannon Sharp. They should have cut him right after the game. Like I think he's a loser, and I wouldn't want him on my team.
I don't know, man. I picked New Orleans to win that division. Jameis, he's.
I know you're saying it's Jameis, but like that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, he's been in trouble a lot, and like he's just not like you see what happened when he left the Buccaneers. Tom Brady won a championship. Baker's in the playoffs.
Yeah,
with that talented squad they have. So they're right there. He's not a good quarterback. He's a third string quarterback on this team.
Yeah,
and that's tough. Like
he's behind Taysom Hill on the depth chart.
Yeah, who's a tight end? Like, what are we doing?
I do think that he's listed as a third string quarterback in most cases because if Taysom Hill's listed as the third stringer, he's technically considered the emergency quarterback. And as soon as he enters the game, that Derek Carr would have to come out. There's certain rules with that third string emergency quarterback that I think they have to do it. I love it. Because that's not just Jameis Winston's decision. Jamal Williams carried that ball across the end zone. Jamal Williams had 6-7 guys in front of him blocking to get him into the end zone. That is a team decision. That was an offensive decision. That was not just Jameis Winston. So if you're going to get rid of somebody, you got to get rid of the whole offense and make a statement.
I mean, fine. Their deep offense is trash too. So I mean, like, it's unwritten rule. The defense, if they just randomly stood up and somebody got mowed over and got hurt or something like that, like I know it didn't happen obviously, but I just think it's Bush League. In my opinion.
Well, you don't like it, stop it, I guess, right?
Fair enough, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I did like what Jameis said. He was like, we were in that position because we had an interception. If that player crosses the goal line, are we even having this discussion of whether it was Bush League or and whatnot? I mean, you're not going to say anything if that guy intercepts it and takes it as a pick six, regardless of what the score is.
Wasn't it the Honey Badger that did it? And then he waited. He waited and waited and waited for somebody to tackle him. And finally they did on the one or whatever. Like, I don't
know. Like I said, Atlanta had quit the week before. I watched them in Chicago. They were just trying to get Arthur Smith out of there and seemed to work.
Good for him.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later. The next game was Sunday at 1:00. The other side of that division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveled to Carolina. They win this game 9-0. I thought Carolina might cover the 5-point spread, and they dang near did. Just out of just out of nothing. You all correctly picked Tampa Bay -5. I didn't watch a second of this game. I kept seeing the score scroll, and I was like, hey, if Tampa wins 3-0, man, that's a cover for me, and I was happy with it. But ugly game. I mean, Tampa wins the division, but it's a trophy made out of tinfoil. I think they finished 9-8. I saw a meme today, where they'll show the side of a cliff and then the other side is sunshine, and it was like Cincinnati Bengals 9-8, fourth in the division. And then over here it was Tampa Bay 9-8, wins their division and gets to host a home game in the playoffs. I mean, congrats. I don't know, but Corey, what did you think about this game, man?
I'm super glad I did not watch this game. It looked very boring. I did hear that Tampa was kind of playing half-hearted ball, like they weren't 100%. They were like 80% or something. I don't know. I think they have a chance against the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles look bad right now, and it's at home. It's at the Pirate Ship, and I think they're +3 or something right now. So who knows? I mean, they limped their way in, but they might go to the divisional round. Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible. What do you think of this one, Kyle?
I mean, Tampa Bay's got to get their shit together before their game against Philadelphia this weekend for sure. But I mean, only beating Carolina 9-0, that's not something to be upset about. Carolina has a good defense. They really do. I mean, their defensive coordinator, Averajao, I don't know how to say his name. but he was blocked from getting an interview today with the Jaguars to fill their defensive coordinator position as well. But they want to keep that DC in-house, no matter, I think, who comes in as GM and head coach and everything like that, is my thinking from Dave Tepper. But Dave Tepper is also the new, Dan Snyder. Him and Jim Irsay, I think, share that title right now.
Yeah.
If I'm a head coach in the NFL, I don't want to go to Carolina. I can tell you that right now. Send me somewhere to be a special teams not even the coordinator. Give me an assistant role on the special teams as opposed to going to Carolina.
Yeah.
But their defense is good. That offense, they didn't score a point the last 2 games of the season. So they got a lot of things in the offseason to they're going to be poverty for the next few years.
I think there was a stat too that they didn't score in the fourth quarter. Like this year, I think.
Oh, really?
It was some weird stat like that. Yeah, it was.
I saw that. I thought it was they hadn't led. No, I guess they won 2 games, so they had to have led in the fourth quarter.
They've scored in the fourth quarter because they almost beat Green Bay. But they didn't score. They didn't score. They didn't score the last 2 games at least.
Yeah.
It could have even been 3. So.
Yeah, they were blank the last 2 for sure. But, if they stay in poverty, we have their 2nd-round pick next year. On top of their 1st-round pick this year. So I'm perfectly fine with Dave Tepper just tearing it up in Carolina. The next game, Sunday at 4:30, the Chicago Bears travel to Green Bay to take on the Green Bay Packers. And we turn the calendar over. But it's the same damn story that the Chicago Bears lose to the Packers 17-9. Myself and Corey had Chicago +3. Kyle and Matt had Green Bay -3. And I'll let you guys start. I've got a couple of things to say. But Corey, I'm sorry they lost you some money. What did you think about this thing?
It's all right. I don't think Green Bay's that good. I know Jordan Love has been playing better, but he also had a middle of the season where he was playing like trash. Aaron Jones looked good when he came back, but I mean, isn't AJ Dillon's not playing now or something? They just switch off. It seems like that one plays and the other one doesn't, and you almost need those two to spell each other, really. Their wide receivers are starting to look a little bit better, but I mean, I think Dallas rolls them.
Aaron Jones always has a game against the Bears. He's become the new Randall Cobb where he just goes off on the Bears. I mean, he was hurt for a lot of the middle of the season, so he should have had some fresh legs coming into the game. And then Jalen Reed was a guy that I liked in the draft, and he just continues to prove me correct that what I saw was real. And the guy, I mean, he just I'll let you talk, Kyle, and then I'll talk. I'm just.
Aaron Jones has 3 straight games of 100 yards rushing right now. AJ Dillon has a broken thumb, or he's nursing a broken thumb. He's been active, but I mean that guy. I mean he fodders. He was supposed to be Derrick Henry-esque, and he has not been Derrick Henry-esque. He is a free agent at the end of this season as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see us let him walk. Re-sign Aaron Jones, or Aaron Jones is still under contract.
Yeah.
But to potentially Green Bay tried to trade for Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the season. So high Josh Jacobs, high Saquon Barkley. I look for there to potentially be a 2-headed monster in that backfield in Green Bay next year. At pass catchers, we haven't had all of our pass catchers healthy altogether at all this season. Christian Watson's been banged up. Romeo Doubs has been banged up. Jaden Reed's been banged up. Dontavion Wicks has been banged up. Bo Melton is a guy that we activated and brought up from our practice squad who had 100 yards against somebody. He
for us.
Yeah, and I mean Dontavion Wicks was our 6th-round draft pick, I think, who caught both touchdowns against Chicago.
But didn't you have Musgrave was out for a few games too?
Musgraves has been out, but Tucker Kraft stepped right up in his spot. And these are all 1st and 2nd year guys. The thing you got to do now is, as bad as Jordan Love has looked at times, he accounted for 36 touchdowns this year. 36 touchdowns. He had, and I posted something today on Daily Football Roundup. Between first-year starting quarterbacks, between their first full season, Rodgers, Love, and Favre, Love has better stats than those other two. Now, granted, There's one more game now because of that, but still better stats. So sky's the limit right now, I think, for them, especially if you can get I don't know that you need to get a big name wide receiver, but if they continue to hit in the draft like they do on receivers, then Green Bay is going to be just fine. They've got to get a new defensive coordinator, though.
I thought your defensive coordinator did fine on Sunday.
I think Joe Barry's an idiot and needs to be fired. How do you give up 30 points to Carolina and in the next 2 games they don't score a single point?
Yeah.
How do you let Baker Mayfield be one of 2 quarterbacks in the NFL, one of 2 in the history of the NFL to have a perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field? The other one being Aaron Rodgers. Baker Mayfield.
Hey, Tampa Bay.
Not taking anything away from Baker, but
yeah.
Joe, he's got to go.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Justin Fields, if this was your last game as a Chicago Bear, I apologize. This franchise, this organization ran you into the dirt. The people that drafted you did it as a last hope to save their jobs, and it didn't work. You had to learn a whole new system 1 year into your NFL career, and then you get a defensive-minded head coach with Luke Getsy who didn't know his ass from the hole in the ground. I fell in love with Justin Fields in Columbus when he played for the Ohio State University, and he was throwing touchdown bombs to Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and all those guys. I watched this man throw a bomb with broken ribs against Clemson, just gutsy, and I fell in love with him right then. He was my second favorite quarterback in that draft, and I was shocked that the Bears were even able to draft the man because Zach Wilson and Trey Lance flew up draft boards for God knows what reason. And Justin Fields landed right in our lap. I was so happy when we drafted him. I was so happy that the Bears finally picked a quarterback that I liked, picked the guy that I wanted, and then they just continued to ruin his career. They didn't surround him with anybody at all until this year. They go get him DJ Moore. They drafted Cole Kmet, and he's built himself up, but tight ends take time. They never put an offensive line in front of them. I don't know what that was last week. For whatever reason, when the Bears play the Packers defensive line looks like the 85 Bears every time. Justin Fields had 0 time Sunday. I couldn't even put that one really on Luke Getsy or Justin Fields. When I was watching that every third down, I know I'm getting a sack. But I just want to apologize to Justin Fields for this organization that failed you. And if this was your last game as a Bear, I hope you go somewhere and I hope you succeed. I would love to see you in Atlanta with all those weapons and another whoever they hired head coach. But I apologize. I will still have my Justin Fields football. I will still have my jerseys, and I still love the guy. But Chicago Bears, as an organization, went back up to Green Bay and failed again and decided that was good enough, that mediocre is perfectly fine in Chicago. Why? Why is this okay to go from Lovie Smith wins 10 games, gets fired? Since then, they hired Mark Trestman, a CFL when they had Bruce Arians in the building. Then that didn't work, so they go get John Fox. Honestly, I had high hopes for John Fox. I saw what he did in Carolina, saw what he did in Denver. I was like, okay, come to Chicago. He failed as well. So they overcorrect. They go get Matt Nagy from the Andy Reid tree. That failed as well. And I was like, okay, I like where you're heading. Get an offensive mind like the rest of the NFL is doing, but just maybe get it from another tree. You know, I'm a Shanahan guy. I love Kyle Shanahan. I liked his dad. That offense just works, and it's all over the league now because of that. But they don't. They go get a defensive guy and Matt Eberflus, who has won 10 games in 2 years. He has won 2 divisional games. He is 1-7 against teams above 500. This man is not a good head coach, and he is not the man. If you draft a quarterback this year, in this year's draft, we have the number 1 overall pick. then history was repeating itself. You had Mitch Trubisky. Whether that was the right pick or not, it's irrelevant. He had 1 year with John Fox and then had to change regimes. Then you did Justin Fields. He had 1 year with Matt Nagy, and then they changed regimes. History is repeating itself again. If you draft another quarterback, number 1 overall, he will have 1 year with Eberflus, and then they'll be changing regimes again. How many times do you have to learn this lesson, Chicago Bears? It's ridiculous, and it pisses me off as a fan. That's why I wore my black hat today, because this is a funeral for the Chicago Bears. It's absolutely ridiculous that you can continue to see how Green Bay builds it. They had Holmgren with Favre. They had McCarthy with Rodgers. Then they go get Matt LaFleur. And Love this season put up more yards than the Chicago Bears quarterback has ever thrown for in our 100-plus years in existence. It shouldn't be good enough. Thank you. We can move on now. Our final game from last week was Sunday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills traveled down to South Beach to take on the Miami Dolphins. They win this game 21-14. I had Miami covering the +3. You both correctly chose Miami or Buffalo -3, and our co-host Matt chose Miami +3 as well. And I thought I had this one in the bag when I went to bed. I mean, Miami was up, and then the one catch was incredible. Gets batted at the line. The wide receiver catches it almost like a punt in the back of the end zone. Just, I couldn't believe it. I thought Josh Allen was going to throw the ball game away. I mean, he threw 2 interceptions in the end zone with taking points off the board. But in the end, Tua Tagovailoa trusted Chase Claypool, and that was a mistake. Corey, what'd you think about this one, man?
I think if our offense was healthy, it'd have been a different game. Buffalo needed this game. They needed to get the 2 seed. They're getting healthier, and their defense is playing really good considering $80 million is hurt right now. That being said, Josh Allen, and they still won the game. So if he can clean that up and he can play like they've been playing like week 14 to 17 and stuff like that, they get the home game. And it's against the Steelers, who I think are – I mean, congratulations, Tomlin, you got in the playoffs, but that's it. So I'm not going to say it's a bye, but I mean, it's Buffalo's got to clean some shit up before they get into the divisional round. That's for sure.
Yeah, they did. They needed the win. They get home field advantage. They win the division. And if they'd have lost, they would have got to play Miami again. I don't know if Miami really wanted that smoke all over again 2 weeks in a row. I don't know. Kyle, what'd you think about this?
I mean, the 98-yard punt return, I think, out of the half really sparked that comeback for the Bills. Deontay Hardy with that long 90, I think it was the longest in Bills franchise history. And then from there, that defense, I mean, the Dolphins didn't score after the first half. Again, like Corey said, you're without Raheem Mostert, you're without Jalen Waddle. This team was built for speed on both sides of the ball, and we've seen multiple injuries for this team on both sides of the ball as well. Andrew Van Ginkel left this game. Jalen Phillips a few weeks ago tore his Achilles. You've had Bradley Chubb tear his ACL. You've had your safeties and your corners miss time. You've had both of your star wide receivers miss time. You've had both of your running backs miss time. Yeah. This team is, I mean, this isn't the time to be hurt. I mean, it's late in the season, and obviously it's hard to get through the whole season, but it's going to be Miami's got their hands full with Kansas City this week, and we'll obviously get in that one here in a little bit.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the injury report, see if any of those guys are able or supposed to be back this week. But yeah, I mean, that's killed Miami down the stretch here. I mean, they had the division in the bag and just really fumbled it the last month of the season. Yeah, all those injuries. You wonder if maybe look into their training staff a little bit and see if I don't know. Maybe some changes need to be made there if you got because they're not even like major injury. I mean, the two that you mentioned are obvious: the ACL and then Achilles. There's not a whole lot you can do about that, but like hamstring injuries and muscle strains and stuff like that. That's stuff that you can fix through the week with massages. All these guys have top of the line equipment to fix these guys and. If you're not healthy, man, it'll put you out quick, and they've figured it out. I still love their coach, but yeah, Miami's hurting
right now. Waddle questionable, Hill questionable, Achane questionable, Mostert questionable, Xavier Howard's doubtful, Jalen Ramsey questionable, Javon Holland questionable, Taron Armstead questionable.
I mean, I think most of those guys will play. Your Tyreek Hill, your Jalen Waddle, Mostert, Achane, those guys are going to play. I mean, Achane had a hell of a season. He's the first player since like ever to have over 100 carries and average 7.3 yards per carry. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's unreal. The guy was just chunks after chunk when he would carry that ball. So I mean, they've got a gem in him because I think Raheem Mostert's about 55 years old by now. I don't think he's got. I mean, he
those
had
knees
led the league,
2 touchdowns or whatever he had. Yeah,
led the league in touchdowns and everything. But I can remember when him and Jerick McKinnon and there was another running back in San Francisco. There was 3 of them because they were always getting hurt over there too.
Yeah. Just a ton of injuries for Miami. But I mean, was there any other games? I mean, I guess we'll talk about Jacksonville. They blew the season. You talk about a team that choked away a division. I mean, this team was a 2 seed in November. That's how good their record was. And then in the last, I saw a meme. I don't know how true it is, but they did a terrible towel thing when they played Pittsburgh, and then like ever since then, they kind of lost out, and the Steelers end up making the playoffs. I couldn't believe how they choked it away. I mean, we all talked all year about Houston's right there behind you. You better win some games, and then they just. Well, I mean, there's even people talking about if Trevor Lawrence is I mean, are you paying him $45 million? He hasn't won anything. I don't know. Corey, what do you think about Jacksonville, man?
I don't think the collapse was as bad as the Eagles, but it was bad. They had that division for the longest time. They had a chance to be the number 1 seed for the longest time too. I'm a big believer in Trevor Lawrence still. If they don't pay him, somebody's going to. I mean, that's just how the NFL works now. I don't think he deserves 45, but I also don't think he should get paid something substantial. Something substantial. They had to revamp a lot of things at Jacksonville. The defense, I'm pretty sure our boy Josh Allen's going to be gone. Yeah.
You come play opposite Sweat.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, they had so many injuries too this year. I don't think Lawrence was right like towards the end of the season at all. I think he was hurt more than they were letting on.
Multiple injuries at the end of the season for him. Multiple.
So that's their division. It was their division to lose. And now, like Tennessee, I don't know what's going to happen to them. I did have them win that. That was such a Vrabel winning game. I loved betting on that one. But, I mean, you got the Texans and the Colts are coming up real fast. Jacksonville's window is closing. And it wasn't open that long. And they could have had it, and they just blew it. And that's all there's to it.
Yeah. Doug Peterson was a guy who won a Super Bowl in Philly, correct? Yeah, with Nick Foles. And then
I think he won a Super Bowl in Green Bay as well as a quarterback. So there's
you only had 2 to choose from, so he had to.
He backed up Favre there for a while, yeah.
But I mean, and we saw it kind of close real quick in Philly too. They won the Super Bowl, and then Philly kind of pushed him out of there and moved on. But I don't.
I think what really hurt Jacksonville is when Christian Kirk got hurt, to be honest. I think it made their offense very almost one dimensional. Hey, Calvin Ridley's out there somewhere. Evan Ingram, where you at? Zay Jones obviously wasn't healthy at all, or wasn't healthy for the whole season either. And Zay Jones isn't a great wide receiver, but he can take the top off. The guy's got speed. And when he's not out there too, it makes it, you don't have those options anymore. So health was definitely, I think, a big thing for Jacksonville too.
Yeah, and it felt like they didn't really, even when all those injuries started happening, you didn't really see them lean on. They have a good running back. Etienne's a good running back.
Well, but even he was hurt a lot this year, and I think he played hurt a lot this year too.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. Jacksonville loses to Tennessee and loses the division, and they got a lot of question marks going into this offseason. A lot of the other games, other than that one, you had backups playing for Baltimore. Pittsburgh beat them. It is what it is. Tomlin still hasn't had a losing record. Go ahead, Corey. You look like you want to say something.
Well, I still can't believe that people want to get rid of Tomlin. It blows my mind.
He would be hired in 30 other organizations tomorrow if he got fired.
I did enjoy the Pittsburgh Baltimore game. It was so bad. Like, that under was the easiest under to bet on, and the fact that when Downey got that sack and everybody was just kind of mulling around and Clowney's just dancing because he got his $750K incentive, that was the highlight of the weekend for me.
Well, Jordan Love, I mean, there was a lot of players that hit incentives this week. Jordan Love hit a lot of incentives for hitting a certain amount of yards. You just talked about Jadeveon Clowney. TJ Watt hurt himself in this game. He's out for the playoff game. Yep. That's a huge blow to that defense and that team overall. Whether you thought they had a chance or not, their slim chance blew out the window with him going down, in my opinion. And are they starting Rudolph again, or?
I think so.
They'll roll him out there for at least the first quarter, maybe the first two quarters. But I don't know. I think Tomlin wants to lose his job by rolling out Mason Rudolph in a playoff game. Not that Pickett's much better, and neither obviously is Trubisky, but you're not going to win this game with your quarterback. I can tell you that.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a quarterback on the roster that can win that game, and they're never bad enough to pick one. So that's kind of the tough spot that Pittsburgh's in, unless they can get. I mean, Kirk Cousins is about to hit free agency. I don't know what their cap space looks like, but somebody like that, I mean, I think he'd tear it up in Pittsburgh.
I think after the Vikings did what they did, I think the Vikings are like, oh, we miss you. I think Kirk's going to stay in Minnesota. But I mean, they still, go out. Hell, with all that talent, I think Pittsburgh's offense is still talented. I love Najee Harris still. And then Warren's right there too. Go out and get like a Russell Wilson that can actually chuck the ball up to Pickens and Deontay Johnson or something. Like, he's going to be available, and he's going to be available for cheap. So, I mean,
I think that you need a quarterback in Pittsburgh to deal with those egos, though, too. I mean, Mike Tomlin, yes, is he a great coach? Absolutely. But he is not somebody that is willing to hold players accountable. Yeah. That's why we've seen so many of these diva wide receivers in Pittsburgh be so emotional and quit on the field, and Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Antonio Brown. I mean, there's just a bunch of them that have been there. And a guy like Russell Wilson, I don't think Broncos country, let's ride. Or, he just has so many things that it's just like Russell Wilson is cringy. Yeah, he's a good quarterback, but he's just a cringy dude. And I don't think you can have that in Pittsburgh. You need a quarterback who is going to be able to put these wide receivers in their place.
Maybe Mike can call his boys Hines Ward. I know he was coaching in the USFL last year, so he's got some coaching experience. You call him in to be a wide receivers coach, or hell, maybe even offensive coordinator at this point. And
it could be worse.
He damn sure would have those. You're either going to act right or you're going to be off the field. I mean, that's how he held him accountable when he was playing. So maybe that's a guy Tomlin will call this offseason and see if he wants to step it up to the big leagues.
Well, Hines Ward is the head coach of the San Antonio Brahmas. Of the UFL. That is the XFL division, I believe. But I don't think that he would come over for a wide receiver gig, but a wide receiver coach gig. But
You name him OC,
offensive coordinator.
But he's going to get paid more.
I mean, with him being a coach, though, I don't think that lines up for him to come in and coach. I don't know when the season's over for the UFL and things, but I think all of those vacancies are going to be pretty much filled by then.
True.
Speaking of vacancies, we did have Black Monday, as they call it, the Monday after the end of the season where coaches are let go or held on to and press conferences are held for the teams that didn't make the playoffs. The first one that happened on Black Friday at 12:01 to Black Monday. I always say Black Friday because of the Thanksgiving thing. 12:01, Arthur Smith was fired in Atlanta. I mean, they didn't even wait for him to wake up in the morning. They shot him a text at midnight, said, "You up?" and that was it. But Corey, you got a whole list if you want to rattle them off, and then we can chit chat about them.
As of 7 hours, I guess 5 hours ago, the updated head coaching openings are the Raiders, the Titans, the Commanders, the Chargers, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Seahawks. And two of those I think are surprising to me. The Titans firing Vrabel was insane to me. They could have traded him or got some cash considerations or something. Compensation or compensatory pick, I think, too. That was insane to me. And then I'm kind of surprised the Seahawks. I think that was a mutual thing, and I think so much so is I do believe Pete Carroll's going to be some type of general manager-esque type thing.
Well, Kyle had some information on the Seahawks.
Oh, did you? Okay.
You told me about it before we got on.
Yeah, so I mean, Pete Carroll wasn't actually fired. So I mean, there's a vacancy in Seattle, but like Corey just said, he's moving to an advisory type of role. Which, if I'm Pete Carroll and I still want to be an NFL head coach, no, fire me. Because from what I had read, he was heated about everything. He was like, I want to coach. I don't want to go into an advisory role. Like, this was not Pete Carroll's decision. So essentially he was voluntold to go from head coach to this advisory role. And I would say that, Pete Carroll, he's the only man in history of the world to have a Super Bowl win, an NCAA national championship win, coupled with a Super Bowl loss and an NCAA national championship loss. So he knows how to do the front office type stuff because he's recruited in college and things. But if he gets that itch and that hunger to go back out on the field, then it's only going to last 1 year in that advisory role.
Yeah, and Pete Carroll, even at his age, 72 years old, he's a guy that can get a job tomorrow if he wants it. I would gladly take him. And I remember when Russ fell off and they traded him away, I was like, well, the Seahawks are going to suck. There's your number 1 overall pick. And he just brought Geno Smith in and didn't skip a beat. That just shows you how good of a coach he is, how good of a motivator man he is. And he's built a staff under him. I believe Dan Quinn came from that coaching tree, a bunch of defensive guys, all the Legion of Boom guys. They moved on to get head coaching jobs or DC jobs elsewhere. And the offensive coordinator, Bears fans have already been wanting Shane Waldron in there because of the work that he's done with Geno Smith. And he even won games with Drew Lock, who we thought was it's a foregone conclusion. This guy's a bust. He can't throw the ball. And Shane Waldron, the OC for Seattle, I mean, his phone's got to be ringing off the hook because they allowed the coaching staff to look elsewhere for jobs. I thought they may have. When I first saw he was fired, I was like, okay, they're going to promote from within. And I thought Shane Waldron would have been their next head coach. But, apparently, they told him, yeah, go out and find a job if you want it.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm shooting from the hip here, but that happened. I think I got the update at like 2:00 or something like that, and then at 6:00, Nick Saban retired. I would not be shocked at all if Alabama tried to call Seattle and was like, "Hey, can we work something out here or something?"
I don't think that they have to. They don't have to work anything out because.
Well, I mean, I guess he could quit too since it's different. Yeah, okay.
Pete Carroll can leave for Bama, but
I think with that team built the way it is, he wouldn't. Like, why not try it one more time for a couple of years?
Well, I think that.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I think Dan Quinn's coming back to Seattle to be the next head coach there. That's my guess because that's where I think Dan Quinn was. Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator under Pete Carroll, and then left for Atlanta. And I think was it Darrell Bevel? Was Darrell Bevel the other coordinator there?
I believe so, and he's currently the passing game coordinator in Miami. That's another name that's been. I've been knee deep in offensive coordinator talk today. Just
I think from the openings, the 7 openings that there are there, I think the top 2 that I would look at from a coaching standpoint that I would want is going to be Washington, and the other one is going to be Atlanta. You have with Washington, they have the most amount of cap going into next year. They have deep, good players on both sides of the ball, the number 2 overall pick, but that new ownership in Washington cares. They actually care.
I was a little surprised, honestly, because they went the NBA route. They hired the guy who built the Golden State Warriors, the latest dynasty in the NBA. I mean, maybe it works out, but the last time we saw,
they're doing that to help them in their search for a GM and a head coach. And they've already put in requests to interview like 8 different general managers and 8 different people for head coach. Like they are turning every stone. And then in Atlanta, you just have all of these young players that Arthur Smith refused to use and instead like to get the ball to Jonnu and Cordero. They don't have any wear on their tires. So to come in and all you're missing is a quarterback on that offense. Granted, maybe a few more pieces on the offensive line and other wide receivers or 2. And they're at the top of the NFC South because that one's going to be wide open.
Yeah.
You get a good head coach in there. And I think that you have yourself a real shot in Atlanta next year.
I think the Chargers is the big one for me. I mean, you have a franchise quarterback in place. They don't have great cap space, and the ownership is a little wacky. But I think that opening, and I've been hearing the guy wanted Jim Harbaugh, wanted him back in Chicago. I feel like I've been hearing through the tea leaves that that's where his eyes are. His wife likes California. He coached at Stanford and San Francisco. He likes California. It almost seems like a perfect lineup for me. And the biggest issue you have there is going to play Kansas City and being little brother to the Rams. You know, that's the only issues you've got out there. But that would be the opening. If I was a head coach and I had my pick of where I'm going to where there's a franchise quarterback in beautiful weather.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Chargers have a lot of old money, and their ownership's weird. It ain't Chicago bad, but it's weird. And they have a talented team, but like you said, they have to play the Chiefs twice, and I don't think they're the best team of this whole group. I mean, to me, it's Atlanta. I think Atlanta is the most talented team. They got some decent picks, and then that division was winnable for the next 10 years. So, and Atlanta's not a bad place to live. It's warm there too. So, I mean,
yeah, it'd probably be a bad place to live, but crime ridden. It'd be like living in Chicago.
There's nice places in Atlanta too.
Traffic's always bad.
Yeah, fair enough.
I hate Atlanta, but I love that they have a carpool lane. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think with the Chargers, though, I mean, Austin Eckler probably gone. Keenan Allen, he's getting up there. Your all-pro center, Corey Linsley, is going to be retiring because of a heart issue this year. I mean, and they're $30 million over the cap, which it's not hard to get out of that, but you're going to be struggling for a year or two before you're probably where you want to be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got to draft well. That's what it comes down to. You draft well, and you're able to cut dead. I mean, the Bears did it. They were struggling cap wise, and that's when they traded Khalil Mack. He'll probably be a cap casualty for the Chargers now. That they'll just make a few moves like that to get back under the cap, but you get the draft. That's what it comes down to. They can't just throw picks at I like Quentin Johnston. They can't do things like that. They'll have to think strategically and try to find a Jalen Reed in the second round or a Puka Nakua in the fifth round. Some stuff like that. They'll have to, and that'll come down to whoever they hire at GM. They had put in a request for Ian Cunningham, who's the Bears' assistant general manager, came from Philadelphia. But fellas, before the Pete Carroll news came out, the biggest name was Mike Vrabel. Like, I was shocked that the Titans moved on from him the day after beating the Jags to keep them from winning the division. I mean, that guy's got clout. He's won the AFC. He was the number 1 seed with 91 different players on his roster that year from all the injuries. The guy, you talk about a leader of men, that's what he is. Now, the obvious connection is New England, but currently New England still has Belichick. I mean, we haven't heard one way or the other. He talked about giving up his personnel decisions, which finally, I mean, I love you, Bill. You're the best to ever do it, Hall of Fame coach. But you can't pick guys. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I don't know what it is about the drafts. He's just but that's the obvious connection. And then I think the Titans go offensive though. I think they just drafted Will Levis in the second round last year. They've drafted what's the wide receiver they picked in the AJ Brown?
Treylon Burks.
You've got Derrick
Tajay
Henry
Spears
probably leaving.
Derrick Henry's gone,
yeah.
So you'll have young guys on the offense. You're going to want an offensive mind to really get them to gel together and move forward that way. But I was absolutely shocked that they Mike Vrabel, we'll just cut you. Corey, are you ready for him to be a Patriot? Or
I mean, I love Belichick, and I find it very hard to believe that he would give up GM role. But he just sucks as a GM. Greatest coach of all time, but horrible GM. Quit drafting people from the University of Connecticut football team in Rutgers. But to me, I thought Belichick was leaving anyway. And this, I know I've heard some talk of Jared Mayo being the coach and waiting. Like, I want somebody. If we're gonna have somebody from the inside, I want Vrabel. Other than that, go get somebody completely different. Like Kraft, just start over. Quit hiring everybody that's in your little group. But for me, Vrabel, it's a now or never.
I think with Mike Vrabel, if the Patriots job doesn't open up, what makes the most sense for Mike Vrabel is to do what Mike McCarthy did after he got fired from Green Bay and take a year off, because another position that could open for Vrabel, depending on how things go, is Ohio State. Ryan Day, while he shouldn't be on the hot seat, is on the hot seat in Ohio State because he can't beat Michigan, right? And if you can't beat Michigan, which, I mean, Michigan won the national championship, but if they have Mike Vrabel out there, who is an Ohio State alum and he's from the state of Ohio, Ryan Day, hey, it's been great, but we got Mike Vrabel now. And for me, even going to New England, he played there, which was funny to me. Vrabel got drafted by the Steelers. I looked that up, and I thought he was a Patriot I thought he came into the league as a Patriot. I mean, the only other opening, there is no opening of the 3 teams he played for in the NFL. And a lot of times that's what we see is players go back to where they've played as coaches, but take a year off, Vrabel.
Yeah, it's shocking when you look at where some of these players were drafted. Robbie Gould was originally a Patriot. and they cut him, and the Bears picked him up, and he was until this year he had the record for the most field goals in 1 year. Cairo Santos passed that this year, so that's one thing that we got right. We got our kicker right. But what are the other openings? So we covered all of them.
Carolina, you got. I mean, nobody wants that job.
The Raiders, I don't think
the Alabama job is way better than that.
most Alabama's better than most of these. The Raiders, if they don't hire Antonio Pierce, it's a travesty.
Yeah, the only way I could see them moving off Pierce is if they have a shot at Harbaugh.
But I mean, Adams will be gone probably, and I think Josh Jacobs is going to be gone. I don't know how much Max Crosby has left on his career, but he becomes your best player, and there's a long gap in between.
Yeah, I mean, Max Crosby he's young still. He's only been in the league for what, 4 or 5 years, I think.
But I'm saying that's it. That's all you got. Like I don't really see much else on that roster, in my opinion. Like I just don't. And your owner's out there, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I was looking at some bring Chicago back up. Their offensive and defensive coordinators open. I wouldn't be surprised if they hire, if not both, but if they hire either Ron Rivera or Frank Reich in Chicago, and you bring in somebody who was a head coach to fill one of those coordinator roles. So when you're 3-7 in the middle of the season and you fire Eberflus, you have somebody who's been a head coach to step up. I mean, Ron Rivera played for the Bears. Yeah. He would be a perfect fit. I don't think Ron Rivera is going to get
coached for the Bears as well.
He coached for him, yeah, and I don't think that he's going to be a head coach next year in the NFL. I think that he's going to, at his age, he could decide to retire. But if he wants to continue to coach, that defensive coordinator position in Chicago is probably a good spot for him.
Yeah, that's definitely names that I heard. I was listening to Chicago radio all day today, and Ron Rivera's name was definitely brought up. But when he was let go in Chicago is when Levy was there, and he felt like Ron Rivera was more popular than him, and there was a big struggle. But Frank Reich is definitely the biggest name that's came up. I mean, Frank Reich and Eberflus coached together in Indianapolis. When Frank Reich was there, Frank Reich had success with 4 different quarterbacks in Indianapolis. He wanted C.J. Stroud in Carolina. The owner, Dave Tepper, decided we're going to go with Bryce Young, and that's what they did, and the rest is history. But if Bears fans have their eyes on Caleb Williams, he doesn't like small quarterbacks. And when the combine comes, Caleb Williams is not going to measure in over 6 foot, and that'll be a big knock on him. Now, maybe they'll end up with Drake May, or maybe they won't even go quarterback. Maybe he likes Justin and thinks he can work with him. But, I mean, Frank Reich's definitely a big name. Go ahead, Corey.
I think for me, the biggest name out there to grab is Ben Johnson. So if anybody wants an offensive coach, that's the first name I think is going to get a job. And I think he'll get like $10 million or something. I think he'll be like
his rumored asking price is 15.
Or say Belichick money, basically. I mean, that's essentially what it is.
I mean, you talk about a guy who would fit in Atlanta. You get an offensive mind who came from a great coaching staff. He'll bring some of those guys with him from Detroit. Yeah, that'd be a fantastic fit in Atlanta, in my opinion. Now they'd have to figure it out at the quarterback, whether it's Russell Wilson or whether you either trade up in the draft or grab Michael Penix if he falls to you or someone like that. But Ben Johnson's a huge name in this coaching cycle for sure. I think we covered it pretty well. We can move on into this week's the playoffs start this week, fellas.
Playoffs.
I'm talking about playoffs.
So
they start Saturday at 4:30. Cleveland at Houston. Houston is 3-point home underdogs. The over-under is 44.5. The money line for Cleveland is minus 142. For Houston is plus 124. I'm going to go ahead and say Cleveland minus 3. I think the defense against a rookie quarterback, as good as he's been, Coleridge, rookie of the year, I just think that Cleveland defense gets the job done, and Flacco's found the fountain of youth in Cleveland. I don't know where they've been hiding it at, but Flacco can get this win out of the way and have the rest of the weekend with his kids. Corey, what you got on this one?
I hate to say it as much as I'm a Stroud boy. I basically just go back 3 weeks. Cleveland beat them 36-22. So, and it was in Houston.
That was without CJ though.
Yeah, well, fair enough, but I just think Cleveland's a better team, and that defense is just insane. So I'm going to take Cleveland -3.
Go ahead, Kyle.
They don't got to win the game for me to get this pick right. This was one of the ones I struggled on picking.
It was hard.
And really, when I looked at it and I looked at when they played and seeing the two quarterbacks, Keenum and Davis Mills playing for Houston when they lost by 14, I look at who's hungrier. And for me, Houston is probably hungrier in this. D'Amico Ryans is going to have his boys fired up, and it's a home game too. Coleridge don't turn the ball over. He takes care of the baby. So Flacco, he makes mistakes. He's Joe Flacco. He'll fall asleep halfway through the third quarter. And I think
Houston gave him the early game.
I think he has to fall asleep. I think Houston has a real shot at winning this one too. So give me Houston +3.
I'll have to do a little bit of research, but I am 100% sure, 99.9% sure that Houston, if they've ever had a playoff game, it was Saturday in the afternoon. I think almost every one of them. And it seems like it was against the Bengals every time.
Well, they had the one against the Chiefs too, where
the Chiefs, I forgot.
I think they were the team that came back and scored like 3 touchdowns in 4 minutes or something crazy like that. I think that's how it went.
Yeah.
I feel like it was reversed. Houston was up.
It might have been the Chiefs. Yeah, they were up big, and then the Chiefs stormed back. Yeah,
because they did the same thing the following week to Jacksonville, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
but you're right, Corey. It does feel like it's always Saturday for Houston.
It's Saturday 4:30. I mean, always. I'll do the research after we get off of here. But yeah,
well, we have another game Saturday night, 8:15 p.m. on Peacock, only on Peacock. Unless you're in the Kansas City or Miami area, you must have a Peacock subscription to watch this game. Miami at Kansas City. Kansas City is 4-point home favorites. The over-under is 44. The money line for Miami is +180. For Kansas City is -218. Fellas, I'm not sure where I'm leaning on this one, so I'm going to let y'all talk me into one way or the other. I have a feeling where I'm leaning, but I don't know. Corey, you want to start or you want Kyle?
Yeah, I'll start. People are still saying the Chiefs are like one of the best teams in the AFC. No, they're not. They're just not. I think even with these injuries and it being cold, Miami doesn't have to win the game for me to cover or whatever. So I'm going to take Miami. I think Miami's going to win this game, but I'll take the points. Miami +4.
Yeah, it's going to be 0 degrees and windy in Kansas City that night. 0 degrees.
Also, a revenge game for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's true. Go ahead, Kyle.
The only player in Miami who's probably going to be able to put up with that weather is Tyreek Hill. Kansas City, they've been through this, and let's say you get a foot of snow. The way Isaiah Pacheco runs, he could run through a foot of snow, right? Because he's got angry runs. I think that with the playoff experience and the Super Bowl experience that Kansas City has, and when you look at the two head coaches, everybody loves Mike. Everybody loves McDaniel, but everybody loves Andy Reid too, and my man can throw back some cheeseburgers. The experience and some nugs. Those are my nuggets. Yeah, I just think that with the way the weather is, the injuries that Miami's had, Kansas City doesn't have a lot of guys that can catch the ball. They got Rashee Rice, they got Travis Kelce. But they have home field advantage in Arrowhead. They have a cold weather game, and I think that they cover this 4 points. So I'm going to take Kansas City -4.
You guys didn't help me much. I was leaning Kansas City because of the weather, but man, the 4 points. I feel like it could be like a field goal game. But I think ultimately you're right, Kyle. The only Miami Dolphin ready for that. I mean, their quarterback's from Hawaii originally. He played at Alabama in college. He's in Miami now. Give me Kansas City -4 as well. I just think they'll be ready for the elements at Arrowhead, and I don't know if Miami will be ready for it, especially if they're not 100%. I mean, we don't know about Waddle. We don't know about Mostert. We know they don't have an edge rusher. Both of those guys are out. It's just a rough way to go about it for Miami.
And I mean, not to stop us from moving on, but this is the same thing that happened to Miami last year. They lost Tua, they made the playoffs, and they started Skylar Thompson. And the
Skylar Moore.
Skylar Thompson, I believe his name was. But they almost won the game. I don't even remember who they were playing. I think Buffalo last year. And they almost won. They lost by like a touchdown or something. But it seems that their luck with health runs out near the end of the season.
Yeah, if they'll ever wrap up their division before the end of the season, maybe they can rest some guys, but they just can't seem to get it together. Speaking of that division, our next game is Sunday at 1:00. Pittsburgh traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are 10-point home favorites. The over-under is 36.5. The money line for Pittsburgh is plus 390. For Buffalo is minus 520. Corey, you had Buffalo winning this division, and they did so. Tell me what you're feeling on this one, man.
Mason Rudolph and no TJ Watt. Buffalo. I think Buffalo might hit the over by themselves, so I'm taking Buffalo.
Go ahead, Cal.
I got Buffalo by probably 3 touchdowns. This is the same thing that happened when Pittsburgh made it to the playoffs with Big Ben, and Big Ben said, "We're not even supposed to be here," and then they got blown out by the Chiefs. So yeah, Buffalo minus 10 for me.
Well, I'm with you, fellers. I got to go Buffalo minus 10 as well. I think the home field advantage is just and no TJ Watt and no quarterback really is just a little too much for them to overcome traveling up to Buffalo. The next game, Sunday at 4:30, the Green Bay Packers travel down to Jerry's World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are minus 7.5. The over-under is 50.5. The money line for Green Bay is plus 295. For Dallas is minus 375. Kyle, I want to hear your thoughts on this one, man. Do you think your Packers got a shot to go down there and maybe outright win? I mean, it's plus 295.
I think that any given Sunday, any team has a chance to beat any team. I mean, the Denver Broncos beat Dallas this year. No, wait a minute. The Arizona Cardinals beat Dallas this year, which, I mean, if Dallas is already looking past Green Bay saying, "Oh, we've got the number 7 seed Packers coming to us. This is easy. Let's just, start looking towards next week." But there's a lot of people in the organization in Green Bay still there in the front office and those kind of things that, were there when Mike McCarthy was there.
Yeah.
So if you don't think that I wouldn't say we have the edge because of that, but we know Mike McCarthy's tendencies. We know that Mike McCarthy likes to lose playoff games. We know that he likes to run a quarterback draw with Dak up the middle, or maybe having Zeke in at center and snapping it to Dak. He does stupid things, and you get stupid prizes. Now, does Green Bay have a shot to win this game? I think that they do. I think that if they can hang tight with Dallas, and that if their defense can play the way that they're supposed to play, they have a shot to win this game. Green Bay has a top 12 offense. That's why they're in this. That's why they made the playoffs. Their defense, when it comes time to put up, they have to put up. That's the only thing. And they have to win the turnover battle. If they don't win the turnover battle, then obviously it's lights out. But I mean, we just saw Detroit almost beat Dallas last week or 2 weeks ago, and Green Bay beat them this season. It's any given Sunday. It really is. I mean, it just depends on how you come out and where that momentum is. But I think Dallas will win the game. Unfortunately, I think it'll be close, but Green Bay doesn't have to win this game for me to get this pick right. And I'm taking Green Bay plus 7.5, and I might put a little bit on the money line.
I mean, you talk about now turning the ball over. That's something that Jordan Love, he must have learned it from Aaron, sitting on the bench for those 3 years of how to fit the ball into spaces where it shouldn't fit. The Bears, Jaquan Brisker on the radio this week talked about the Packers struggled this year when they were press man covered and the defender was in the way, it made Jordan Love struggle a little bit, but that's not the defense they play under Eberflus. They play the back off and try and run up and break it up at the last second. But just like you said, Kyle, Green Bay does not have to win this game for me to get this pick right. Give me Green Bay plus 7.5. It's the hook that gets me, man. I think it's going to be a close game. Corey, tell me why you think Dallas is going to blow them out.
I just think they're a better team. They played also at Jerry World. I feel like they played like 23 games there this year.
Every fucking game is at home.
And they're undefeated. So like they're undefeated. They're a different team when they play at Jerry World, which has not been the case the past few years actually. But minus 7.5. It's kind of scary, but not really. I think Dallas wins and covers this.
All righty. Move on to our next game. Sunday night football, the Los Angeles Rams traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions are 3.5-point home favorites. The over-under is 51.5. Money line for the Rams is plus 142. For Detroit is minus 170. I'll go first. This is my favorite game of the week. You got Matt Stafford coming back to Detroit. You got Lions fans trying to ban Stafford Lions jerseys in the stadium because reasons. It doesn't matter. The Rams come in and the Rams put Detroit out of the playoffs this weekend. Give me Rams plus 3.5. And I'd sprinkle a little on the money line. Go ahead, Kyle.
When I look at these two teams and I look at the way these rosters are built, I mean, honestly, if you look at these teams, they're not that different from each other, right? Kyron Williams is the league leader in most rushing yards per game. He's not the leading rusher because he did have some injuries. And then you got Puka, who broke the rookie record for receiving yards and receptions. But you got Laporta, who broke the rookie record for most touchdowns by a tight end. You've got the Lions, who are the first team in however long to have two rookies score 10-plus touchdowns. You got a strong running game on both sides of the ball. You've got a strong passing game on both sides of the ball. This is kind of like the Green Bay-Dallas game. Detroit has to win this turnover battle, and Jared Goff loves to turn the ball over. If they lose the turnover battle, they have a real shot at losing this game. But I look at the hunger between these two teams. The Rams were there 3 years ago. I don't know how hungry they are. I don't think they're as hungry as the Detroit Lions, who won the NFC North for the first time in history this year. So I'm taking Detroit minus 3.5.
Go ahead, Corey.
Well, despite the jersey behind me, he is not my favorite player of all time. It is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is my favorite player of all time. He gave his heart and soul to Detroit, and for him to come back and play them in this game, I'm rooting for the Detroit Lions. I just think that story is awesome, and they've been so bad for so long. But he's coming back home, and that plus 3.5 is so attractive. If it was plus 3, maybe it'd be a little different story, but plus 3.5. They have, of all the underdogs. Well, I'll take it back. Buccaneers too, but the Rams have a solid chance to go into Detroit and win this game. So I'm taking Rams plus 3.5.
Nice. Yeah, and Sam Laporta was carted off last week. I'm assuming that he's not going to be playing.
That is right.
Check.
That is a big.
Also, the script writers, everybody says that the Rams obviously won the trade with the Jared Goff's Matthew Stafford trade. It's time. The NFL script writers are wanting that to look a little bit more even. So they have it to where Detroit's going to win the game.
Those script writers went nuts with this weekend. Go ahead, Corey.
They did.
As of today, he did not practice. He is listed as questionable. They're saying it's a knee hyperextension and a bone bruise. So he didn't rip anything, it sounds like. But there's an outside shot that Laporta plays, according to the team.
Well, the bone bruise, man, we'll see. That's a tough one. Our final pick of this week, Monday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles traveling down to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, who are 3-point underdogs at home. The over-under is 44. The money line for Philadelphia is minus 155. For Tampa Bay is plus 130. Corey, you kind of teased it a little bit. What are you feeling on this one?
Man, I love it that the Buccaneers are plus 3. Philly has been hot. This is the worst collapse this year, the Philadelphia Eagles. And they have lost in the past 5 weeks. Oh, well, okay. Let's go back to when after they beat the Bills, lost to the Niners, lost to the Cowboys, lost to the Seahawks, won against the Giants, lost to the Cardinals, and lost to the Giants. That's tough. That is awful. I like Baker and +3 at the Pirate Ship. I'm there. I'm here for it.
Go ahead, Kyle.
This one was not as easy to pick for me. Yeah, Philadelphia, the wheels are falling off for them. And I know earlier in the show I said, hey, Carolina's got a good defense. But you lost the week before to the New Orleans Saints, I believe. And Baker didn't look so great against New Orleans. The one thing that kind of helps me out with this, and it's tough because the Buccaneers have the 32nd rushing offense in the NFL, is this game is going to be played during a thunderstorm in Tampa, where it said the humidity is going to rise and it's going to be raining all day. And I like Tampa at home with Rachaad White just cutting through that terrible Philadelphia run defense. So yeah, give me Tampa Bay +3 because I think that they have a good shot to win this one as well.
Yeah, I mean Tampa just doesn't. They're 32nd because they just don't hand the ball off. I don't know who their OC is, but that dude loves to sling it. But hopefully he can holster it this week.
Is it Leftwich or is Leftwich gone?
Leftwich is no longer there because that was another name that came up today in Bears OC talk. But I thought I was going to be alone in this when I first posted this. I got Tampa +3 as well. I mean, they're at home. Baker's making a good run. Now, Philadelphia being completely healthy made me kind of question this pick a little bit, but Philadelphia just, I mean, they backed into the playoffs, and even, I mean, I just got to go Tampa +3. But Nick Sirianni might get fired if they don't win this game. There's Philadelphia and Dallas, both of their coaches are on the hot seat if they don't win this game. Kyle, you're shaking your head no, but this is a team that let Andy Reid walk out the door when they thought his time was up. They watched Doug Peterson hoist the Lombardi Trophy, and then they fired him like 2 years later. They are quick to pull the rug out from under their coach if he's not winning games. And Nick Sirianni is not looking so good without his coordinators there in Philadelphia. Dallas, I mean, you talk about Dan Quinn being his defensive coordinator and possibly going to Seattle. Who knows what Jerry might do? he might say, Dan Quinn, I don't want you to leave. You can come be our head coach. But so the firings of head coaches may not be over yet, fellas. But tell me what you're thinking, Kyle. I see you shaking your head.
I mean, they took his offense and defensive coordinator away. You want to fire the guy after 1 year of not having your OC and your DC, and I understand, like, you had a collapse at the end of the season. I get it, but at the same instance, I don't see firing him as the answer, because then you're kind of going back to square one. Who do you bring in as your new head coach in Philadelphia?
Well, so Vrabel, if the Patriots actually decide to get rid of Belichick and Vrabel goes there, I could see Jeffrey Lurie calling up Bill, like, hey, you want to try for a couple years? Jeffrey Lurie would take Bill Belichick in a heartbeat.
But I don't know if Bill Belichick fits. I don't know if Bill Belichick honestly fits as a head coach anymore, because the Belichick way is dead. It is dead. It left with Tom Brady.
That's an awfully talented team to have the greatest coach of all time just jump in there and do something.
Don Shula's not coming to coach Philadelphia.
Okay, get out of here. And he wants that record too. So I don't think
he does want that record. Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he sticks around in New England, and maybe Vrabel will come be his DC and coach in waiting. I don't know what might happen. I doubt it, but who knows? Anything can happen. But what about McCarthy? If he somehow fumbles this game away, Kyle, do you think there's a shot that he's out on the streets?
I mean, for sure. I mean, Jerry Jones has not been committal with Mike McCarthy at all. He said, let's see how the playoffs go.
Yeah.
And I think that one is definitely a lot more understandable of a firing because of the way that the season has ended for the Cowboys the last few years. When you're running a quarterback draw or you're running a heavy loaded left, I understand trying to throw a screen pass and have all those blockers out there, but don't put Zeke on the line by himself. I mean, he got blown over. So it's just, there's a lot of things that Mike McCarthy does that you just are just, it's almost like he's trying to be cute and be this innovator. And it's just like, that was stupid, McCarthy. Yeah. Like, why would you do that? And we saw that in Green Bay too. I mean, there was multiple times where it was just like, what are we doing? You know? And go ahead, Corey.
Well, to me, McCarthy just reminds me of a button masher on Madden. Like he'll run some good plays, and then some stupid play like the Zeke one or something will come out. And you're like, "What? Did you drop the controller? What happened there?" Like, but yeah, I'm with you. I think if he loses the first week or to Green Bay, if he loses, I think he's out.
Yeah. But I think that with McCarthy, though, I think somebody is going to be willing. I mean, say Carolina might say, "Hey, McCarthy, come be our new head coach." I think that he does go to be a head coach somewhere right away. If he gets fired. And I don't know that I don't see McCarthy going back to be a coordinator for anybody. He's been a head coach for too long and he's been a pretty successful head coach at that, but he's been surrounded by good quarterback play.
That's very true. And Dak Prescott, I know he's not the favorite to win the MVP. Obviously, that's Lamar, but the numbers he's put up this year and the way he's definitely, like, I was a Dak hater coming into this season. I was like, he's so overrated. You know, of course, he's got all the love. He's the quarterback for the Cowboys. But the way he's played this year, I've been very impressed with Dakota Prescott. Yeah, I mean, we covered all the game. Go ahead.
Is his first name Dakota or is it Rain? His middle name's Rain, right?
Middle name's Rain.
Yep.
Yeah. He's a Army brat, I believe.
No, his first name's Rain. His first name's Rain. Rain Dakota Prescott. Really? I was right. There's another one. We need to add him to the list. Before we go, though, do we want to do Super Bowl predictions real quick on who we think is going to be there?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and knock that out. Go ahead, Kyle.
So for me, my NFC team is sitting at home this week. So for me, I don't really see anybody in the NFC that's going to stop San Francisco from getting to the championship, especially having a bye week to get healthy and get right, especially for CMC.
Yeah.
On the AFC side of the ball, the team that I think is going to the Super Bowl is playing this week. And I think that they are the hottest team in the AFC right now that's playing, and they have the best chance to beat Baltimore, and that's the Buffalo Bills.
Stole my pick, Kyle. That's literally, I was thinking about it all day. I was like, I've been saying all year, San Francisco is my favorite to win the Super Bowl. I love Kyle Shanahan. I love the way that team is put together. But we've seen these types of runs, the New York Giants, your Green Bay Packers, make these runs late where they get hot at the right time. And I feel like Buffalo's got it the way they've done, and they've got home field advantage against everyone except for Baltimore. So all these other teams have to come up to Buffalo to play them. Especially, I mean, if the Rams win, they have to go to Buffalo, correct? Is that how that would line up?
The Rams are in the NFC.
Yeah, Rams are in NFC.
Oh,
so.
I'm an idiot. Disregard. Yeah, so Buffalo gets,
there, I don't mind it.
Buffalo gets home field advantage. That was my pick, and I thought I was going to be clever and pull that one off, Kyle, but you stole it from me like Jerry Jones. Just pulling the rug right out from underneath me. Corey, who's your Super Bowl prediction? You don't have to pick a winner.
Well,
who you think's gonna be.
I'm going to zig while everybody was zagging. I think at the beginning of the year I had 49ers and my beloved Bills. I think the Bills just come up just short when they play the Ravens, and I think it's a Harbaugh rematch, even though there's only one Harbaugh this time. 49ers and Baltimore Ravens.
So you got the 2-1 seeds making it all the way to the title game. Hey, I can't argue with that pick. Long as both teams stay healthy, it's hard to see them taking an L in any of these games. I mean, there's a reason why they're the 1 seed. Until next week, like, comment, subscribe, share the video with your friends. Go to DFR's Facebook page and follow it. Go to DFR's YouTube page and subscribe and hit the little bell. It'll tell you when we go live. We go live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. It'll be up on podcast form on Spotify and iHeart app tomorrow morning. But until then, fellas, I'll just let you go ahead and tell them, Corey.
Bye.